Let's look at what's going on. Let's see. Today we are starting Module 3. So you should be done with all of Module 1, all of Module 2, everything turned in from there. It looks like most of you have taken the test for Module 2, both parts, and finished that. There's just a few of you that have yet to do that. So we have a few of you that have not quite caught up with where you need to be. But it's, for the most part, you guys are doing really well. I've got grading to do on the test, so you probably don't have a grade back on it because I was out Friday, and a lot of you did it Friday or this weekend or Thursday night, and I have not done any grading since then, since I was out. So I'll be working on that in the next day or two, trying to get all the grading caught up on there. But it looks like most of you in a good place. A few of you still need to get caught up and take the test. So, but we are starting Module 3, which I see people already working on Module 3, trying to get ahead some. That's great. Get ahead far enough and just take a break, right? So some of you guys are already starting on that. But looking at Module 3, we have lesson 3.01, 3.02 this week, and it is about dividing polynomials. Two different ways. First is long division. So we have to look at long division in lesson 1 to really appreciate synthetic division in in chapter 2, the second lesson of module 3 here. So let's look first at how do you divide using long division a polynomial. So let's do an example of that. Let me put my camera up here on the screen. And we will look at dividing a polynomial long division wise here. So if we are going to divide, got this up here. Let's see. Let's do 2x to the third minus 10x squared plus 18x. And we're going to divide that by 2x. Okay, 2x. I'm like, wow, so I remember doing this with numbers, but now we got letters in there. Yes, we're using variables. So how many times does 2x go into 2x to the third? You're primarily looking at the variable, and when you can, the coefficient. Now, the coefficient is just 1. It'll go in there one time, but x goes into x to the third x squared number of times, right? So now you multiply these together, put it underneath. 2x times x squared is 2x to the third. Okay, there's nothing left when you subtract. So we bring down the next term. It's been a while since you've done long division, even with just numbers, right? Got to remember how to do this again. So how many times does 2x go into negative 10x squared? Well, 2 goes into negative 10, negative 5 times. X goes into x squared, x times. So negative 5x times 2x is negative 10x squared. So again, there's no remainder, nothing there. Bring down the next term, 8x. How many times does 2x go into 8x? Plus 4. 4 times 2x is 8x. No remainder. So when we divide 2x to the third minus 10x squared plus 8x by 2x, we end up with x squared minus 5x plus 4. So that tells us that 2x x squared minus 5x plus 4 are factors of this polynomial. Because if we multiply them back together, we'll get this here. And this, we know it's still a quadratic, so we could actually factor that further, but that's a different lesson. But we can factor that more. and bring it down to the basic factors. But the first thing we did was we just learned to use polynomial division, long division. Let's pull up another example. I'm pulling these from your lessons. So if you need to review this is from the video. There's videos in your lesson that go over these two that I'm showing you here. So that way, if you need better explanations and missing
x squared minus 2x.
See, there it is. Trying to do that in the video. So let's talk about one that's a little different. If we did x minus 6 divided into, this is another one from the lesson, x squared minus 2x plus 4. Okay, so we're dividing x minus 6. This is a binomial into a trinomial. So it works the same way. We look at the first term, the x into the x squared. How many times does that go in there? It goes in there x number of times. Right? But we got to put it over here because since we're doing x minus 6, we're looking at x squared minus 2x. Right? This is looking at the first two terms, so we're looking at the first two terms over here. And since we're looking at the first two terms, we have to take that in consideration, x times x minus 6. But we only look at the first term to figure out how many times it goes into it. Right? X goes in x squared, x times. So now we multiply it and put it underneath. X times x is x squared. X times negative 6 is negative 6x. Right? So now when we subtract those, remember after you do division, you're really subtracting those. So this one zeroes out. There's nothing there. But negative 2x minus a negative 6x is 4x. Because subtracting a negative makes add. So we add 6x to negative 2. So into 4x, we have to bring down the next term. So now how many times will x minus 6 go into 4x plus 4? Right? So we only look at the first term again. X goes into 4x how many times? Goes in there 4 times. So 4 times x is 4x, and 4 times negative 6 is negative 24. When we subtract here, we got 4x minus 4x goes away. 4 minus a negative means 28. So what we see is there's a remainder of 28. Remember remainders when we get in there where it didn't go in there evenly? So when we divide this, the answer is x plus 4 plus, and there's 28 over x minus 6. That's how many, the remainder over what was dividing by. That's one way we can, that you'll see that written, is the remainder over what we're dividing by. Just like when you did division, if you did a long division and you took maybe a while before you got to this, a while back, if you divided 6 into 26, it'd go in there 4 times, 24, remainder 2. So we know it's 4 and 2/6. Because we had a remainder, 2 of 6, which simplifies to 1/3 in that case, right? 4 and a third. That's how many times 6 go into 26 is 4 and a third times. 4 and 2/26. Same thing here. Whatever you're dividing by goes in the denominator. Whatever your remainder is goes in the top. So that's long division using polynomials instead of just numbers. But I want to jump to lesson 2 because you'll like lesson 2. Synthetic division. Synthetic division. And synthetic division, I'm going to start out by doing the exact same problem we just did over here. All right. So if we were dividing, let me write this over here in this other sheet. X squared minus 2x plus 4. If we were going to divide those, but using synthetic division is a little different. If this is x minus 6, we want to figure out if that equals 0, what does x equal? So that means x equals 6 in this case. So I'm just going to take that 6, and I'm going to divide it into the coefficients. What's the coefficient here? It's just 1. This coefficient's negative 2, and this coefficient's 4. I'm just taking the coefficients. This is synthetic division. We'll do another example or two here. So the way I do synthetic division is first I bring this first one straight down. The first coefficient just comes straight down. Now I multiply these. 6 times 1 is 6. And then I add these. Negative 2 plus 6 is 4. Then I multiply these. 6 times 4 is 24. Then I add these, 28. That gives us our answer. You're like, what? What's the answer? Well, we started out with an x squared. So that means this is going to be 1 less. This is just going to be an x, and the coefficient is just 1. So if this is the x term, this is the constant term, x plus 4, and this is the remainder of 28. And since this is 6, it would be x minus 6. So we get the same answer, the x plus 4 remainder of 28, x plus 4 remainder of 28. It's just we save some time by not having to do the x's. Now that's a pretty simple one. Let's look at one that's a little bit more involved than that. Let's see if we have a good one in our lesson. That's not a very good one. Let's get a bigger one. Get one of the practice problems. This one looks better. Haven't seen how the lesson does this, but we're going to do this one. So if we add 2x to the third plus 6x squared plus 9x plus 10, and we wanted to divide that by x plus 2. All right, that's what we're going to divide. Now, let me warn you first off. Synthetic division only works when you have a binomial that just has that. We cannot do it if it's 2x plus 7. This does not work. It has to be just an x plus or an x minus with a coefficient of 1. That's the only time we can use that. If it's just an x plus or x minus, like we can do x minus 6, we can't do 2x plus 7. It has to be just a x minus something, x plus something with a coefficient of 1. So we can't always use synthetic division. That's why we have to know how to do long division also. But this is just an x plus 2, so this works. So if it's x plus 2, we're going to use negative 2 in our synthetic division. And again, we're just going to pull the coefficients. This is the x to the third term. This is the x squared. This is the x, and that's the constant. Just the coefficients. First term always comes straight down. Now we multiply. Negative 2 times 2 is negative 4. Now we add. 6 plus a negative 4 is 2. Again, negative 2 times 2, negative 4. Add. 9 minus 4 is 5. Negative 2 times 5, negative 10. No remainder. So if you divide x plus 2 into this, remember the first term now, we've taken an x out of there. So now this is going to be an x squared. Since that was an x to the third, we end up with an x squared. So the first term is going to be x plus 2. This is going to give us the factors. That's an x squared term. So the next one is just an x plus 2x, and that's just a constant plus 5. And there's no remainder. So if you divide x plus 2 into this polynomial, you get x plus 2 times 2x squared plus 2x plus 5. Just use the coefficients. Use what, if this was equal to 0, what would x be? X would be negative 2. Drop the first one down, multiply, add, multiply, add, multiply, add. And that gives you your answer. Let's see if they have another good one here. They had a bunch of them on that page. Let's go look at some more of them. Okay, here's an example I want to pull out because we need to talk about what happens in this case. If we were dividing x minus 2 into x to the third plus 1, okay, x to the third plus 1. Here's one of the keys about synthetic division. Okay, if this is x minus 2, that means we're using 2 for our synthetic division. Our coefficients, remember, just the coefficients. So what's the coefficient of our x to the third term? It's 1. Here's the thing about synthetic division. We can't skip anything. If we start with x, this is our x to the third term. What is our x squared term? What is our x term? And what's our constant? We can't skip any of those. What's the coefficient of our x to the squared term? We don't have one. The coefficient must be 0. What's the coefficient of our x term? Again, we don't have one. Must be 0. and our constant's 1. See, we didn't have that case in any of these. This has an x to the third, has an x squared, has an x, has a constant, has an x squared, has an x, has a constant. If it's missing one of those, we jump straight from the x to the third term to the constant. If we're using synthetic division, we have to use the coefficients of those terms, even though it doesn't have them visible. But this is x to the third plus 0x squared plus 0x plus 1. And using synthetic division, you have to have those. So first term comes right down. 2 times 1 is 2. Add those together. 0 plus 2 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. Add those together. 2 times 4 is 8. Add those together. So the answer, this is now, since this was x to the third, this is an x squared. X squared plus 2x plus 4 with a remainder of 9. It says a remainder of 9. We have to add those extra terms in there, even if it doesn't show them here, for synthetic division. You got to have the x to the third, x squared, x, and c. So whatever your largest one is, don't forget all the ones that are in between there, because this is really x to the third plus 0x squared plus 0x plus 1. That's the key. That's what the whole thing is. We just never write. If the coefficient is 0, we never write that term. We skip that term. Because why would we write 0x squared? There's nothing. Well, synthetic division, you have to have it. This is quick and easy. You're just multiplying and adding, multiplying and adding, multiplying and adding, which is a lot of times easier than doing the long division, because we can confuse ourselves sometimes with this. But we got to pay attention and not miss the 0 exponent terms. Questions on that? Does that look quicker and easier? This synthetic division lesson is only like 4 pages, and the 4th page is just telling you that the lesson's over, right? And so there's not a whole lot that you have to read, because synthetic division is pretty straightforward. The first lesson is only 6 pages on long division. You know, we got 6 pages on the first one, and the 6th page again is just saying, okay, now go do the assignment that goes with it. So very short lessons, but there is a practice assignments for each of them, so you can make sure you're understanding how to do this. Get you some pencil and paper out when you go through those lessons. It gives you examples in the lesson, so work those examples and see if you're getting the same answer they get. Because when you get to the quiz for this unit, you'll get the test for this unit. You don't want to miss on easy synthetic division stuff, and that takes a little practice to get used to it. It takes a little practice, because first thing you do is you'll forget to put that 0x squared in the synthetic division, or you'll go start subtracting or instead of adding and stuff, because it's different. It's kind of different than the long division. And it's a lot quicker and easier. But remember, there's only certain cases you can do it. You have to have like an x minus 1 or x plus 5 or something. You can't do it with the big snazzy x term, because you have to just use that number from it. X minus 6, we just use the 6. So that's it. If you haven't finished module 1 or 2, make sure you go back and get that finished up, and then get started on module 3 here. We'll be in module 3 for a few weeks. We've got quite a few lessons from that. Let me look and see on our assignments. What do we have? If I have all of those open up. Oh yeah. So we don't test on this until like Halloween or so. We're going to spend a whole month of October in this. And it looks like it might be the week after Halloween before we actually test on this. So we'll be in this for the next several weeks. So good practice. Our quiz is still 2 weeks away after this, so you get a good chance to get some practice in on these other lessons. But let me know if you have questions. And be sure you have pencil and paper in front of you when you're going through these lessons, and try those practice problems that they give you. But otherwise, I will let you go. If you got questions, hang around. But this is good stuff. Good stuff this week.
Let's get out of here. Word to your multiples. Math, baby. We're learning math. baby.